Should you use filtration? Of course, yes. Every fish tank, for the most part, excluding certain types of fish, should always have filtration in it. Now, the more important question is, what type of filtration do you want to use? Everybody argues which ones are better or worse, and if one's going to do as good of a job as another one. Personally, I think all filtration types work, and then a lot of it depends on your situation on which one you should use. Right now, I'm on a big kick of using sponge filters. It's a great place for beneficial bacteria to grow. It's extremely cheap to run. For the most part, it's quieter than most types of filtration. You just have your air pump, and then you have that bubbling sound from the air coming out of the tank. It's not perfectly 100% quiet, but it's fairly quiet, and for the price, I mean, most air pumps that people use in most tanks that you'd find in most people's homes are under 30 bucks. Sponge filters can be anywhere from $2 to $15. So if you were to set up a whole new tank with a sponge filter, you could be out the door for between $30 and $50, which is pretty cheap for a filter. It lasts forever. And if you ever have to replace your sponge filter, it's just 12 bucks or just 20 bucks for a new air pump. It's personally my favorite. A lot of fish breeders use it because they're convenient, they're easy to clean. All you do is just pull it out, squish out all the gunk in a bucket full of tank water, so you're not ruining your beneficial bacteria, and then rehook it back up to the air inside your tank. Super simple. Probably the easiest type of filter to clean. The next one that some people use, it's not as popular as it used to be. I personally don't like it because it's really hard to clean. Is a under gravel filter. So basically, you just put your substrate over top of the filter. It has little nozzles like a sponge filter has, but what it does is basically uses your substrate as your filter, and so all your beneficial bacteria is inside your gravel or your sand, and it pulls all of it through there, catches the debris and everything that way. What I really don't like about under gravel filters or under substrate filters is that it pulls all the poop, food, anything that's decaying in your tank, and puts it inside of either your substrate or underneath the actual filter unit. And the only way to actually clean it is to really get in there with like a siphon or a tank cleaner and suck up it out of that sand. And so you have to do that, or completely remove it and then go through it and clean it and replace your substrate. What I don't love about it is, even without having an under gravel filter, you have bacteria particles and everything that do get stuck in your substrate, and it can break down and create bubbles of nitrogen or ammonia. And when that happens, if it escapes, it can cause a spike in your tank of ammonia or nitrates, and then essentially poison your fish. So for me, that's not what I love because of that risk, but also because with that, you do have to clean out your substrate all the time to avoid that from happening, and so I just prefer not to, and I just avoid it. The next one I'm also not a fan of is a hob filter or hang on the back filter. It has that waterfall off of it. It pulls through a few sponges and filters that are inside the little plastic box that it sucks water up into. They work great. The thing that I don't love about it is that if your water evaporates, it creates that trickling waterfall sound. It's a big pet peeve of mine. I hate that sound. I hate water sound. I'm not much of a white noise type person, so if I could make it so my tanks made zero noise, no water sounds, nothing, I would be in heaven. Like that's my ultimate goal. I don't think it'll ever happen until I can get a sump, and even then it still makes some noise. It's just hidden behind your stand or in a different room, so it's quieter. but that's my main concern with it. That, and you do have to occasionally rotate or get new like carbon filter medium and floss filter medium, kind of like a cottony filament packs. They're not very expensive, but I don't like having to buy those. So because of the replacing of those pads and the inevitable waterfall sound that happens, not my favorite. Next is a power head. With that, it's basically a wave maker inside your tank, but with it actually has a motor inside of it that moves the water. It's kind of like a mini pump, designed to be inside your tank. Most people use it to get flow in their tank or to pump water out of their tank. What I loved doing with it is I'd stick a sponge on the bottom, or even a sponge filter, and then have everything filter through there, and then the water gets pushed out the top. It's great if you have fish that love a high flow, because they put off a lot of power. For me, if you have one that's running well, it's one of the more quiet options. The only problem is they can be a little bit expensive. Most of them, like for a size for like a 50-gallon tank, or $50 or more. Not exactly. I like to keep stuff really cheap. I'm super cheap on equipment because I like to spend most of my money on fish. So I look for cheap options that work well. And power heads I used a lot in high school, but then I didn't like the price tag of replacing them every few years, even though I love how little sound they make and how effective they are. But as long as you have it running well and it's not got any problems and the motor's running really well, they're really quiet, love it, and do a really good job. Next is a canister filter, kind of like a hob filter, but inside a contained unit outside of your tank. They work really well. They keep your water very crystal clear. They have a lot of different filter mediums in them, so it makes it so that you can clean your water, make sure it's crystal clear, take care of the nitrogen cycle. It's not inside the tank, so it's prettier. So there's nowhere in your tank that you have equipment, which is really nice. If you're looking for like a nice show tank in your living room, great for that. They tend to be on the more pricey side. I think most canister filters start at like $80, but most are around the $150 to $300 range. So it's not the cheapest option, but it definitely is the most mechanical, and if you can keep it running well, is one of the most, if not the most effective ways to keep your tank clean, because it just has a space for all those different types of filters. And finally, the last one that I think is that people use in the hobby is having a sump. A sump is just basically you have another fish tank under your fish tank, or in another room, where the water comes out of your fish tank into that other tank, and in there it passes through several filters and carbon to make your water clear, makes it clean, has a lot of space for biobacteria because you put in a lot of other types of things to clean it. Bio balls are one thing that a lot of people use, just a lot of things that can hold that beneficial bacteria and take care of your nitrogen cycle. Another plus with this is it adds extra water volume, and so with your fish, it makes it so you don't have to do water changes as often because there's more water volume, and so there's more space for that nitrogen and ammonia, and so with that you're able to have more fish in a smaller tank and have them still just as healthy because the water stays cleaner. But it is the most expensive to start up, but afterwards there's very little mechanical stuff besides the pump, and depending on what type of pump and how big your tank is, it can be expensive or not. I'd say most sumps start at $200-300 to start up, depending on if you get one pre-made or you make it yourself and what size pump you get, but probably competes with canister filters for how well it does. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful.